Yo, what is up, my guys? Eric Hill here, one half of the Hill Twins, and today we back at it again with another video. As you guys can see, we got a gameplay video for you guys. Ooh, we lit. I know it's been a while, but yeah. So we got my boy Sean on the right using Android 16. Yo, this deck is pretty nuts. As you guys know, Jared Lopez, the runner-up for the national champion, put this deck on the map. We didn't really have faith in what this deck could do or what it could be up until we seen it showcased at Nats. So then you got me on the left, playing my newest yellow Brawly list. You guys are familiar with this leader, Terror of the Past, but he got buffed. You know, everyone's playing Icarus. I love Icarus. I played Icarus for Nats. It was great, but I definitely wanted to try something new and try a different approach to the yellow cards. And one of the things that he allows you to do is, you know, just be able to untap your 2 energy and stuff. He's very powerful, and you're going to be able to see me exploit a lot of his powers in this game. And so, yeah, without further ado, let's jump right into the match. So Sean started. He won a dice roll again, as he always. Charges to 16, plays to 18, and here he finds the Android 16 disengaged, and that's a good play because he's going to be able to at least charge it and be able to play it for a rival from his energy. And as you guys saw, I ripped the Bloodlust. That was pretty nuts. So Sean, if you're watching this, my fault, bro. But yeah, so at this point, I'm not going to waste energy. I attack, doing Brawly things. I get to take a life, draw a card, and I'm going to pass because I know that Android 16 loves to tap 2 on turn 2 to play their 2-drop for their ramp. And I'm like, nah, I don't want that to happen because I need the game to go at my pace. So he attacks, he, you know, filters his deck, pitches the actual 16, and now he was able to, you know, play the 2-drop, which you see me slam the Bloodlust down. And some people may say, wow, is Bloodlust the proper play? Yeah, I think so. Anything I can do to stop them from getting to 4 energy faster than me is, especially going second, is, as, you know, I think it's the best strategy that you can employ with having a leader that can use that card. So charge, I attack, and I'm resting, draw a card. Now I have two extra cards in the energy, and that's good. And you know, so Repulse is live, and I dropped this Basil. For some reason, I thought he had 5 cards in rest mode, just the way that the cards were kind of like placed and stuff. But it's all fine. I needed to draw anyway, so that was good. So now it's his turn. He's definitely on a setback because, you know, of the Bloodlust. And so he has to figure out what to charge. It would have been easier if it just came from the top of his deck, right? And, you know, I can see his hand a little bit. I don't see the bull. But if he was able to get that off, this is where, you know, Android 16 decks wants to establish their bull to be able to start drawing cards. But obviously, I was able to disrupt that. So at this point, he goes ahead and he attacks, he pitches, and he just draws. And, I mean, I think, you know, there's not really much that he can do. You know, so I think he's just figuring out, like, you know, what's the plan. But if you're looking at my hand is a pretty healthy size for turn 2. And at this point, I'm just going to combo out because, you know, like I said earlier in the video, Brawly has to attack and take the life in order to draw, which is one of the downsides of the leader on the unawakened side. And so I just pitched to 8, and this will allow me to at least get another draw and take the life. And as you guys saw, I ripped the pan off the top of the deck, which was also nuts. So my draws has just been nuts. So like I said, it's my turn. I charge, I attack, take life, draw. And at this point, you know, I'm feeling pretty good. My hand is pretty big still. He takes the damage. I mean, you know, he has, his hand is not too big. It's decent, you know, so there's no reason not to. And he doesn't, like, protecting the life doesn't matter because when he awakens, he goes to 5. So at minimum, he can take life up to 5 before he awakens. So, you know, no need to invest. And I tapped 2 for the 8, and I'm like, yo, I'm feeling good. I got the 2 extra cards in the drop, and, you know, I'm passing. You know, so he charges, and this is kind of, like I said, where they want to establish the unison. I don't think he had it in his hand, But he is at 4, and this is good because he's at 4 and I'm at 3, and I will go to 4. So bloodlusting was optimal for me, just to keep the actual the state of the game similar. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't want to be too far behind energy and, you know, he start doing things. So this point, you know, I could have repulsed. When he attacked, I decided not to because I definitely wanted him to go into his combo to, you know, utilize my power to Super Saiyans. And yeah, you see him dropping the super combo. Now my hand's pretty big, and you know, so it's not really gonna do a dent to me. But this is when he's gonna arrival. And so, you know, his strategy is to just summon this guy. I'm at 4, you know, he gets to swing with this guy. And on top of swinging with him, he untaps at the end of the turn. But he also gets to utilize his, you know, his energy and just start doing things. Because he hasn't really been doing things for the first couple of turns. And this is where I get to use the power of the Super Saiyan, and you see me drawing a riposte, and it's like, damn. And now I get to play Poutine. So the Poutine actually checks a potential Zamasu. And so you kind of see what the deck is doing clearly. Obviously, that's what yellow is doing. And so, you know, I am going into my 4th energy soon, too. So this is big because now I'm feeling pretty safe. And I'm like, do I want a combo? And I don't think I think I take the super combo back. I'm like, well, you know what? I'm going to take the life. I don't feel like investing too much to protect that damage. And I can thrive at 3 life. Although I do know he plays the 21 in the deck, and that can burn me. I got to be careful for that. But I do know that playing at 3 life with Brawly and just having all the defensive options that you have, it will get me where I need to go. As we see, he taps the energy. And I think it was contemplating first, you know, but it makes sense to tap the energy, play the Zamasu, because the Zamasu is not going to die, right? But in this list, I actually do play Mecha Gabora. That's my 4-drop unison. And so, obviously, I am purposely not awakening because I want to be able to awaken on my Mecha play, which you're about to see now. And so I'm in a pretty good position because at this point, you know, I get to charge, and now I can set the Mechie. And obviously, Sean's not having, you know, the best of games in any capacity. You guys can see, you know, you're not dummies to tell, like, his draws haven't been, you know, well. His energy area is also very weird. He has 2 of the 6-drop Stout Hearts, and, you know, they're not really effective, right? They're going to come in and get rested or locked, but I'm probably keeping Zamasu locked. You know, I have Poutine checking it, so leader effect, when they come into play, I can just rest them. And so this is just a bad matchup for what my deck is able to do and what my leader's able to do. So as you guys see, I uptake, locked the Zamasu, and I had Awaken, so I got 2 energy to spare. And at this point, you know, I can attack my lead, draw a card, and I'm like, no, you know what? He might be able to arrive with a 5-drop. Let me get some value. Let me rest the 2-drop. Uptake on a Bezu. If you're going to kill my Bezu anyways, because I'm going to attack regardless, at least I'll get value from it, right? I don't want you to combo out on my leader swing and, you know, kill it. So I'm thinking of attacking into that 2-drop, and I'm like, no, Eric, get value, because it's not going to make sense. Make it make sense. So he takes the life because his hand is pretty low. Like I said, he wasn't having such a great game. This game wasn't the best in any capacity. And so, you know, he needs the cards in hand. And so I'm just like, okay, well, cool. You took that life and you snap took it. I'm going to run back into lead because that's kind of what I want to do. Just start being able to pressure you. I am at 3 lives. I am on a time limit still. And he super combos here. And again, I have such a dense hand. I'm just trying to figure out what I want to put back here. And his goal is just to try to, you know, stay alive and float as much as possible until his deck can actually start performing. Because, like I said, typically on turn 4, we have a Boo Unison. We have a lot of the 5-drops in play. Even if they were going to be rested or locked, they should be in play at this point. I have not used anything to KO, but he has not built a board, and that's kind of where he's lacking. And so, you know, it's definitely probably most likely a frustrating game for him so far. And now I'm going to go ahead and attack with lead, and I'm just going to draw this card. I'm like, yo, man, you know what? If you want to awaken, awaken, because at least you'll lose the energy. and I'll have, you know, some things to do, but he takes the life. And I'm like, okay, cool. So at this point, I tap for the slug, and I'm like, you know, I'm feeling pretty confident that he won't be able to, like, damage me crazy. I do have Mecha Kabura out. So I'm like, yo, do I want to tap out for this for this 3-drop slug? If he does establish a unison next turn, which he needs, he could start gaining advantage. So I'm like, you know what? I'm probably gonna tap out. I have the pan that I drew from turn 2 or something like that, and you know, I'm feeling good about it. So I'm like, you know what? Attack. Get him in rest mode. Screw it. And he negates. Not too sure if the negate was optimal, but I guess he just didn't want to deal with anything else. And so you know, now it's his turn. And this is where the game starts to get very, very, very weird. On top of not drawing well, because as you guys can see, his energy area is not flooded with the 16s as they normally would be if you're having a optimal game or even a normal game. And that's just not what's happening here. So I'm able to just play the game, player 1 mode, and unfortunately he has to charge this Android 16 in rest mode, because you can only charge arrival cards in active mode. I think it's blue-green Android cards and arrival cards. So, you know, he did lose out on the energy here, which was just you know, just more stress to his game. And now if he wants to drop the Meki, if he wants to drop the Boo Unison, he has to tap 4 and awaken, so he'll only have 1 energy. So he's attacking, and at this point I'm like, well, you're attacking, I might as well just block with Meki. I think I block. I don't have any energy up. So, oh, I decided not to block, yeah, because I didn't want him to not awaken to damage my Meki. So now the Meki's still live for something else. Still have Putine, so I'm still feeling pretty good. And he has options, you know. He can arrive with his 6-drop, even though it will be rested, which is kind of neg. You know, I don't know. I know his hand wasn't the best. Definitely those 5 drops would have been great, because they do untap at the end of the turn. So, but yeah, it's just looking really rough, you know. I knew, you know, playing against him with this in this position, it kind of felt bad. But he's like, yo, you know, I gotta play the game, right? If you're in a match at nationals or a regional and things are not going right, you have 1 or 2 options. You play and you grind it out, or you scoop out. But this is a casual game. We're just having fun, and so this is pretty much what's going on. But you know, he's definitely a powerful player at this point. Sean has some pretty good accolades. He actually you know, topped 8 in a regional, so he's a top 8 regional, top 8, and he has in nationals he would have top 16, but he lost to Jordan Marco in the last round. So it was him or Marco. If he would have beat Marco, he would have topped. So he would have been a top 16 finalist. But he ended up, you know, losing to Marco. Which it was a very good game, I heard. So, so Sean has been leveling up. Like, he's, you know, 2022 is definitely gonna be his year. So, you know, it's not that Sean doesn't know what he's doing. It's just that the cards are just not coming up. And he actually beat me. We did this match. We played at locals. He beat me. My deck was a little bit different, but he piloted the deck with, you know, with very, very, very good control. So, you know, I know that the deck is just not performing right now. But yeah, so he drops his Boo, and he can't draw. So at this point, you know, he just uptakes still, and he chooses not to attack because I could rest out of energy, and he wants to have as much energy as possible. So it goes into my turn. I charge the energy, and the first thing I'm gonna do is just attack with Slug straight into Unison, because I'm like, well, you know what? I know you can't draw, but the Unison is still pesky, and I don't really want to deal with having all those battle cards on board, because I know that this deck can explode, and still having a Unison. So at this point, I attack with Bezu, and he eats it, and that's good, because if I threw a double strike on the Bezu, you know, now you're at 1 and you eat and you die. So but this is pretty rough now, because I dropped the Annihilation, and this card is just so good. in the mirror match, so good against Icarus, so good against everything. Red, like it's just such a good card. Those free negates, they're no longer free. The blocker negates are no longer free. And he's a 20k deflect and barrier, so this is gonna run straight into the boo with ease, because I'm like, well, you can't, stop it. And this is kind of where I get punished, which is kind of crazy. This is a good play. Definitely got overzealous with my attacks, and he was just able to just be like, nah, bruh, you bugging out, all right? You bugging out. Now, you lose your draw, and this is good, The fact that he had the baby was really good, and if his game was just any better in the slightest, it would have been much, much, much more challenging for me. But I'm okay with this, because I know my Meki's sitting at like 6 right now, and I'm just like, yo, Meki's at 6. The next turn could try and be my kill turn, So think I tapped this energy. I was trying to, I was gonna tap out to KO. I was going to tap out to KO the 2 battle cards. I mean, the 1 battle card on rest mode. But he does have 2 markers on the boo, and I said I don't want to do that because he can God Center me, which you can kind of see it in his hand a little bit. So I was like, let's not be bad. Save the 1 energy. You have Repulsed, and you have Power of the Super Saiyans. So you have some options for next turn. You still have Meki, Poutine. It's just a war of just defense that he has to get through. Which is no big feat for this deck, because this deck can go crazy, but his energy is just not it right now. It's not giving, right? I think that's the new fad. It's not giving. So he goes ahead and he charges the disengage, and it's like, damn, that was like the first disengage we've seen in the energy. That's bad. But it's his turn. He has another Zamasu. He has some options, but it's rough. So he's just like, what? Screw it. I could attack into Slug, but nah, let's go into lead. This is a 40k. It's value. I'm at 3 life. He still has the other play into the 21. And, I'm fairly in critical mode. So at this point, I know that the end of the game is kind of nearing, because I'm like, well, I'm at 3 life. He has a lot of energy. Things didn't go his way. But if he gets a few more turns, he can just completely sweep the game from me. And so I'm like, you know what? Do I want to block this attack? And I'm like, no. This 40k is not terrible. Worst case scenario, he can only crit me 1 life, so I will go to 1. So I want to be able to use the power of the Super Saiyans just to kind of deny him as much advantage as possible. So I can power of the Super Saiyan, rest out the Unison, and then have the blocker for the leader. And yeah, so as you guys can see, I drew that Frieza's army token, which was the negate, and I'm like, okay, cool. And so now I took the life. I'm just not gonna combo out of that. Like, if I'm gonna combo out, it has to be for a game winning attack. My hand is still pretty broken with super combos and stuff, so I'm like, well, you can't double strike me, because you can't. I'm familiar with the list. So at this point, now you have to choose to attack with lead, which then I could negate with repulsed. And I think I'm going to repulsed either way, because it's just value. I don't want you to attack me with anything. So at this point, he decides to get smart and to pro plays and attack with the android, the 5k. And he'll be able to use leader effect, and he'll be able to arrive and do things. So I'm gonna riposte here, because now I'm like, well, if you want to attack with leader, if you want to get into the battle, you have to rest an energy out, and that's going to be big for me. You can't use extra cards like Bean, so I know that there's not much you can do, and I have the Meki blocker. So whatever's coming into play will get rested, and then I have the Meki to either rest another card coming into play or rest an energy. So he's pretty much on lock at this point, and he's like, yo, is this, he's kind of figuring out right now, just calculating if he wants this riposte to be live. If not, he has plays. He can do things, and he could potentially kill me this turn. I don't see his hand directly, but I think that this was the smart play. Although he's losing advantage, because I still negated the attack, and I have this. But yeah, so he attacks with lead, and I'm like, you know what? you're trying to get freaky this turn. I need to win next turn because I'm on the clock. So I decided to pan, and then I have the blocker, and that's like the perfect like duo. Like you have pan and Meki, and so pan for the leader, and you block. Now I get to rest in energy, and I'm gonna rest that 6-drop because going into his next turn, I know how they like to arrive with those cards. So they like to tap them to play them, and that way they kind of save an energy versus it being tapped and then having to pay extra energy for a card they're gonna lose from the energy anyways. So at this point, he can't do nothing. He taps. He passes. And, you know, my board is pretty broken. I have like a bunch of barrier cards. I know he has the potential to straight up eat the shorty right there, you know what I'm saying, my bae, you know, the pan. And I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna attack with lead because I missed my draw last turn. The baby shut my draw down, so I'm like, you know what, damn, I just need to get my draw. Like, nothing else matters. I want more cards in my hand. And I think I'm attacking into Unison because I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna straight out just blow the Unison up with the double strike. Screw it. Like, why not, right? Like, I have the double strike. I have a very big board. His hand is not where he needs to be. And that's okay, because we've seen that this deck can thrive without a hand, but the energy is weird too. He's just in a weird predicament. And then with my ability to rest cards, have Poutine, have Meki, it's just a lot. So right now, he taps 1 energy just to even activate the extra card. And now he's just figuring out if he wants to take a life or if he wants to pay the energy for it. And I think he chooses the life, yes, as he does, because you get the card in hand and you keep the energy. And that's actually pretty good because now he still have plays if need be. And I think he's at 3. And it's just rough. So now I'm like, damn, I don't want to attack with Meki because why? So I'm like, you know what? I just attack into there, and I'm like, you know what? I know you're going to eat the pan. She did her job. It's okay. Like, that was it. Fine. There's nothing on the board that I really need to steal. Nothing's in active mode anyways. Nothing is going to come into play in active mode immediately. So she has no real value outside of just swinging. And she's just going to get 8 in anyway. So it's fine. That way I actually saved the double strike, swinging into there. And yeah. So now, you know, I have all this energy open. I'm like, yo, I have plays. So I summon the Turleys. I'm just going to pop the 1 card and draw because at this point, this is my kill turn. I'm like, I got the double strike here. He's at 3. I need to figure out how to get past this without running into something that I don't want to run into. And I'm also in my head like, I need to put a significant amount of, you know, combo on this because I know he can leader effect. But I know he has like 3 or 4 cards in hand. So I'm like, you know what? Let's trouble the double strike. Let's go to 25. And I feel like I could have put more in that, but I don't know, I was just being silly. You know, I thought he would have had a way to get rid of it, so I didn't want to invest too much on that battle card without barrier. But, you know, I know he has the free, you know, combo from drop, but he uses a super combo here, and that's pretty good because he just completely, no, he guards, it doesn't guard yet. Now he's going to arrive where he plays this, and you know, it's just kind of unfortunate because it comes into play in rest mode. And if it didn't, I would still be able to rest it with my leader, which is so good. And so at this point, he's just at a loss. And he combos out of it. He goes to 25, and that's good. But now I still have another barrier card, 20K. And at this point, I'm like, wow, you summoned him? Cool. Yep. So I know my Poutine triggered. I know that I probably didn't want to rest it, but it doesn't matter because Meki will untap it anyway. So now I have a card that's dual attack, 20K, and I'm just like, you know what? You have a low hand. I'm just going to apply the pressure. Like, just 20K upon your head top. And he doesn't have much options. And again, I'm not gloating about the game in any capacity. Like, you guys can clearly see that the deck wasn't doing what it was supposed to, but for the sake of content, you know, just kind of letting you guys see the decks being played out and, you know, the concept of them. But yeah, you know, and the games are not gonna always go my way or the opponent's way, but yeah, that's just pretty much the concept, you know. So he goes ahead and he arrives out this guy, and that's fine. I have leader effect to rest that, and if you know, he loses so much value with this, and I attack in again, and you know, his hand is just so low, and I'm just like, yeah, I'm gonna throw some combo power in this. So I final flash, and I take the blocker because he could just pop him to special summon him and make him a blocker again with his revive, and I'm like, final flash him. Now I leader effect, which is the only good. It's only good for leader effect. Basically, take the life, untap him, you attack, draw a card, and I showed a double strike. That was the first thing I wanted to do, just so that, you know, if you wanted to scoop. But that's the game, guys. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. We're going to game 2.